today is Mardi Gras in Louisiana. That's why you have the beads and the chocolate coins at your tables to celebrate a little Mardi Gras. Just the some of the rules. There's no dancing on the tables or any of that kind of stuff. Okay? And it is Mardi Gras today. So, welcome anyone here for the first time. Welcome. Are you all from? Yes, let's give a big hand. Are you all from Mission Grove or other neighborhoods surrounding? Orange Crest? Where else? Canyon Crest? Good. Where's that?
Mission Grove.
Mission Grove, yeah. Okay, great. Well, welcome. We're glad to have you. We're the Mission Grove Neighborhood Association, not to be confused with a HOA, which we are not. This is the area of Mission Grove, but we also welcome anyone in the city of Riverside to attend, especially the neighborhoods that are connected to Mission Grove. So we invite you all to come. Our sponsors, Canyon Crest Country Club, we need to thank them. They do not charge us for the room. They let us use this facility. We would not be able to hold the meetings if we had to pay what typically they would charge for a room fee for this. So we're very thankful. And for that, we have new TV monitors, if you noticed. We purchased those, and we're leaving them here for Canyon Crest to use, except for when we have our meetings. And we also have a new set of mics and things to improve the audio and the visual for the meetings, since we're in this room that's kind of long and narrow. If you haven't signed in, if you RSVP'd, we have your information, so you can just check your name off. If not, please sign in on your way out so that we can include you on our email list and you get notifications of what's going on and what's happening. There's a lot going on these days, so we want to keep everybody informed. Meeting rules, we're going to respect one another. Raise your hand when you want to ask a question when we get to that point. And no heckling, and please be respectful of everyone in the room, including the speaker. I want to say that the last meeting that we had, where we had the 4 county supervisors here, we got a ton of compliments about how well that meeting went, how well everyone was and treated the supervisor candidates. And Brian and I have attended numerous meetings since then, and people have come up and congratulated us on how well the meeting was and how good the Mission Grove group is. So we've really come a long ways in less than a year, and we seem to be doing a good job and, hitting the right spots. So any dignitaries here other than our speakers going to be showing up? Any city council members or any? So I guess we can talk about them all. Very good. Give us something to talk about. So some things to discuss. Balloting and voting. So there's some things on the ballot that we thought we'd discuss a little bit. The state Proposition 1. If anybody can understand that, please explain it to me. Prop 1. Yeah, it's a $6 billion thing for mental health. It is so complicated. I can't even begin to understand it.
Just say no.
And I have a tendency when I can't understand what it's going to be, and it's going to be a lot of money, to vote no. Because I figure if I can't understand it the way it is, then they're probably not going to be able to justify where all the money went and be able to account for it all. So it's just a mess. So that's state proposition. I did download the best document that I could find that was very objective about the process, and it was very detailed, but I still couldn't come to grips with overall what it meant. In some parts it was going to remove money from the counties and go to the state, and in others, and it was going to be a bond, and it was going to take 30 years to pay off the bond and cost umpteen millions of hundreds of millions of dollars in interest. And so I didn't mess with that one. The city measure B, the cannabis tax. We've talked about that one before, and I'll give you a little update. I reached out to the city manager to get some more information on that. And I did this only on Friday, went out to get the information on it, and they were kind enough to send me back an email, and I asked them several questions about the measure. This is the document that went out on the argument for Measure B, that 2 of the city council members went out, and I wanted to let everybody know that there's some statements in here that are relatively false. It says that there's going to be up to $2 million a year in taxes, in revenue raised from taxes, which it might or might not be, and it's going to be used towards 9/11 emergency response, fire, paramedics, street repairs, investments. No, it's going into the general fund. It goes into the general fund. They can use it for whatever they want. It has not been earmarked. At that city council meeting, the end of November, they even talked about making it a special tax. A special tax, you have to earmark what it's going to go to, the funds are going to go to, but you need 2/3 vote to get a special tax in. With a general fund tax, you only need 50% plus 1. So they elected to go that way. They continue to say Measure B invest directly into Riverside public safety and also invest in Riverside's further growth. It will provide funding to bolster our public safety professional to crack down on existing. No, the money's not earmarked for any of that. It continues, Measure B provides critical funding for our firefighters and paramedics. Nope, it's not earmarked for any of that. There's no funds earmarked for any of the stuff that's in here. And at the end, Measure B is an essential component to protecting quality of life in the community, providing funding for parks. Nope, there is no promise of any funding for parks or anything else. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. But I did reach out to the city manager's office because I had several questions about this, because in one of the statements that they made, they said that it could be repealed by the voters. So I asked, what does that mean? Repealed by the voters. Sounds simple, right? We just go to them and say, hey, we don't want it anymore. No, not that simple. If we want to repeal it, you have the option to pursue a ballot initiative for the same purpose. This process involves proponents collecting signatures of 10% of the Riverside voting population, or 16,000 valid signatures required to advance the question onto the ballot. So it takes 16 signatures just to get it on the ballot, whatever we want to do, and then it still has to be voted on. Now keep in mind, it only takes about 2,400 votes to be elected to the city council in each ward, typically about 2,400. Sometimes a little more, and sometimes a lot less. So that tells you how difficult it is. We also asked to explain where they got the $2 million annual revenue expectation. And that was based on data they collected prior on the average cannabis business and how much revenue they brought in based on the tax at 10%. It came out to about $2.2 million average. And so based on that, that's how they came out with the relatively $2 million. The cannabis businesses the sales have been falling for the last 2 or 3 years. There's reports out that sales have been dropping. I looked up Moreno Valley for last year. They have 25 cannabis stores, and they brought in a tax of about $2.2 million with that. We're only going to have 14, so it could very likely be less than that. So then I asked how much would the estimated cost be, in other words, the expenses for staff and stuff to run and oversee this cannabis business. And basically they came back and said that it's going to include roughly 5 staff members and other expenses. Anyway, the total program cost is approximately $800,000 per year to operate. And I don't think it included any extra police force, that would need to be dedicated to it or whatever. So, but I was very thankful to the city manager's office I sent this on Friday and they got back to me Monday with the answers. So I was very thankful for that. The other thing is the cannabis stores attract a certain criminal element. Recently in Oakland, there was a burglary in process one evening, breaking into a store, and a cop answered the call and they shot him in the head. Killed him. So the people that are robbing cannabis stores are serious about it. They're not your petty thieves that are doing it. So we wanted to kind of let you know what's going on in the cannabis thing. You can decide how you want to vote. Personally, I don't think we got adequate data and due diligence from the city and from the staff on exactly what the ramifications were of this. It was more of a sales pitch than anything else. Yes?
What is the current tax that the cannabis stores are paying?
The current tax?
Yes.
Well, they're proposing a tax of 10%, up to 10%.
We don't have it yet, thank you.
What is the local tax now, on top of the sales tax or replace us?
Yeah, it'll be on top of the sale, plus there's a whole bunch of other taxes. They pay about 30% in taxes to the state for all kinds of stuff. In fact, you mentioned that, about 13 cities and counties lowered their tax to either 0 or less than what they originally did, because the cannabis industry came back and complained that they were having to charge too much with all the taxes between the state and local governments. So they backed off on the local taxes. So a lot of them that started out wanting to do a 10% or 8% have ended up at 0 or 3 or 4 or 5%. So it hasn't been as successful, I don't think, and I think there's been a saturation of the stores all over the state. Now remember, almost 60% of the cities and counties have voted not to have cannabis stores. It's only about 40% or so that have voted to do it. So almost 60% have not done it. So we just wanted to give you some information on that and what's going on with that, and you can vote how you feel best. Ballot collection program. We promised we were going to collect ballots for anyone that wanted it, anyone that couldn't leave their house, that didn't want to mail them. You all received your ballot and envelope in the mail. Just to let you know, your ballot has a number, and it's up in the left-hand corner is the ballot number, and that ballot number is also on your envelope where your signature, where your name is published. It's up in the right-hand corner, and on the ballot it's in the left-hand corner. You really want to make sure those two numbers match, because if not, if you try to track your ballot on the state of California, you'll have turned in somebody else's ballot if it's not the same number, and it won't come up as your ballot. That happened to a gentleman his son and him were the same name. And so he inadvertently grabbed his son's ballot and mailed it in, and then claimed that they never received his ballot when he had mailed his son's ballot in. But he would have known that if he'd looked at the matched numbers on the envelope and on the ballot itself. So we have the ability to collect ballots, turn them into the Riverside voting. So if you do have a ballot, we're going to try to spread that around and have it in different areas, and we'll notify you when that is. Voter integrity, Riverside election integrity team. Brian and I have been part of this Riverside voter integrity team that's been challenging the 2022 vote with a lot of irregularities. Ballots that were supposedly counted to be 30,000 and ended up 38,000 and so on. So we've been challenging that to try to come up with a system and process with the county to count ballots better than what they do now. They use these Dominion machines that have protected software that no one can get into. And I've done a lot of software stuff. I created AVNs back in the 90s and done a lot of software stuff. And anytime you have protected software, basically I think of immediately the Volkswagen deal. Remember what Volkswagen did? They took the diesel engines that were in all their cars, and when the car was in the smog control place, the car knew it was in the smog control because of what it was set up, and the computer immediately changed the smog thing so that it came out and passed, and as soon as you drove away, it reset it. And so these machines can do the same thing. A computer always has a date. There's a date in the computer. It's very simply to tell the computer to add up the ballots this way until such and such a date, and then between this date and this date, add them up another way. And you don't have to have access to the computer to do that. You can program it to do that at any time, because you know when those dates are. You know when they're going to start counting. So we used to have a very protected process with our ballots. Everyone had to go to the polling place. They had to show their ID. So ballots didn't get lost, ballots didn't end up all over the place. We had an account of all the ballots because they didn't leave the polling place and they got sent in. Now we're mailing them all over. You can buy them, sell them, trade them, do whatever you want to with your ballot, give it to somebody else. We have no accountability of how many get sent back in. People have reported getting multiple ballots. And when we all voted on Tuesdays, it didn't matter how many places you were registered, because you would have had to gone around to each of those polling places and vote on that Tuesday. So if you were registered in 4 states, you'd have to go to those 4 states on that Tuesday. Now you can get the ballots mailed to you and vote in 4 states. Because we have no national database of voters that basically says, you're registered in Arizona, if you want to re-register in Missouri, you've got to cancel your Arizona registration. Several years ago, one of the universities did an analysis and found that a number of states had voters that had moved out of the states, they'd been out of the states for years and were already registered in another state. And when they went to one of those states like Wisconsin and said, you know, we found thousands of voters that we know for a fact are registered somewhere else, you need to take them off their rolls. And they said, no, we're not going to do that. They need to notify us. They want to be taken off the rolls. So to me, there's a big problem with voting. So we've been working on that process. We had the mayor with the coffee with the mayor on the 1st, for first safety and security coffee meeting. It went very well. We had about 25, 30 people here. Anybody here for that? Or several people? It went very well. The police chief was here. The city attorney, who was a former prosecutor, was here. He was very good, talking about some of the laws and business and prosecutions, and that went well. Redistricting. Now, redistricting is what got us started in this whole thing. It was the whole redistricting. So I went back recently, and through the Freedom of Information, I asked for, again, the racial polarized voting analysis, which is a report that the city admits that they received on January 4th of 2023, and they proceeded to hand it out to all the city council members. Nobody ever whispered a word about it ever since then. So I asked for a copy of it, and what I got back was, the records are protected by the attorney-client and attorney work product privileges and are exempt from disclosure. According to federal and state law, but not limited to provisions of the evidence code relating to privilege. So basically, they weren't going to give it to them. So they received it. It's acknowledged that they received it, and they acknowledged in the minutes of their meetings that they needed that in order to redraw the districts using race as a primary component, which they ended up doing. So I'm not interested in redoing the maps. I'm just interested in making sure they understand that they violated federal law in what they did, and they need to make sure they do it right the next time. Fruit fly. The fruit fly issue, we brought it up last time. The fruit fly is endangering the small farmers here in Riverside, and everybody that's got a crop of citrus. They have to knock them down. I think we mentioned that they had originally found 26 male fruit flies that invaded Riverside that were all looking for a mate. And they were very frustrated they couldn't find one. But if they did find one, and we found that they found one, then they were going to come and cut all the trees down. So, which they did find some up in Redlands. So we tried to get the city going, because obviously we're in agriculture. We have a university that specializes in agriculture. We found that in Europe, they have these vans and mobile devices to go around and process food, process fruit and vegetables, and they use them in Europe with small farms. Because if they're processed, then they can sell them. They just can't sell the fruit whole, or the vegetables. So we tried to get that going, but what we did find out with that is that we also created a report, our first research report. One of our members is really good with research and analysis. He made calls, and if you haven't looked at our research report, it's on the website. And that's the first of some other ones that we're going to have on certain topics, on exactly who knew what, and it made phone calls and found out that the right hand didn't know what the left hand was doing when it came to different agencies about this fruit fly thing. So we encourage you to read that. We also found that down in off Victoria, pull up the map, acres on Victoria, near Madison, which is where some of the small farmers rent land to grow their crops. They've been informed that the 3 owners that own 10 acres each are selling that acreage, and the developers that have been looking at it feel there will be no problem getting it. Right now it's zoned for 5 units. You can build 5 2-acre or whatever 5-acre parcels in there, because Victoria is obviously an area that's like that. But the developers are not worried. They think they'll have no trouble getting that converted to apartments, which that could equate to up to 1,000 or more apartments. So we're going to keep an eye on that and see what happens with that 30-acre parcel. So, and along with that is Mike McCarthy's here with the Arnell group, so I'm asking him to come up for just a minute and give us an update. We've got some exciting news concerning that, and I'm going to put some up right now for you.
Hello everybody, I'm Mike McCarthy. I'm with Riverside Neighbors Closing Warehouses and also a proud member of Mission Grove Neighborhood Association. We had a real big victory this week. So Senator Roth, who came and spoke to our group last month, we talked about warehouses. He just submitted Senate Bill 994 in January 31st, which would streamline the transition between Marsh-Joint Powers Authority and the county. There's some language in there about transferring development agreements and settlement agreements and other land use authorities that we were worried about as a community. And I gave his office a call, said, hey, we heard you come talk last month. You didn't tell us about this. Could you make a statement for our community that says why you didn't tell us about this bill that you're introducing that affects our community specifically? When you were here, you could have told us about that last month. And he sent us this letter 2 hours later. And so this is the official letter from his office, and I think it's extremely powerful. The county reached out to him. The senator made it clear to the county and the JPA that the job number 1 is to confer and partner with all community stakeholders in the very beginning of this process and garner their support. They didn't tell us about it, of course. It has come to our attention that promise has not been fulfilled, and key stakeholders, including the Mission Grove Neighborhood Association, have not yet been consulted. And it will not move forward until we are. And so I want to thank Brian and Louis, and I want to thank all of you here for being here and participating in the political process. I've been doing this for 2 years, and I can't get politicians to return my calls. I can't get them to talk to me. And this senator who was passing a state bill to basically bypass any shenanigans that they could have done, came back to us and said it's on hold until we are consulted. So I want to just thank everybody here. This is amazingly powerful, and thank you, thank you, thank you. So give yourselves a hand. 2 other items on the JPA. They are the ones that are proposing the Grove warehouses, which is the 20 warehouse project behind the Grove Church, where the bunkers are. It would be up to 4.7 million square feet of warehouses. They're currently in what's called a recirculated draft EIR phase, which means it's open for public comment. If you want to flex your political muscle, we need you to write a letter. So please, our website at tinyurl.com/rivnow has a template if you want to do that, or you can just go to the Marsh JPA website and submit a letter to Mr. Fairbanks, that's Fairbanks at marshjpa.com, just saying you oppose this project for whatever reason you feel, and that's what we need to do. Additionally, they have an EJ element going on and some other things, but those are the big updates for us right now, and thank you all so much for being here and participating in the political process. There is power in numbers, and I would love to have more politicians by beck and call, so please keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Like I said, we made an impression on people in that last meeting with the county supervisor candidates, and I think it's paid off here. He's put this bill on hold until we are consulted along with others. That's big. So, and we've only been in place since last April. So, we're doing good. Okay, I see that the sheriff is here, so we're going to get him up because you all came to listen to him. So, Sheriff Bianco is here with us tonight. I've got a little bio on him. Let's see, he grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I do want to say a couple things about the sheriff. He was re-elected in 2022 for his second term. He oversees the county's 5 jail facilities, 6 court buildings, 1 civil bureau, the coroner's bureau, public administration office, 12 patrol stations, and here's the big one, 17 contract cities are the sheriff's department overrides their police. 17 out of what, 71 cities in this county, I think? That's quite a few. Got 4,200 employees, operating a budget that's over $1 billion. So he belongs to all the associations of sheriffs. He's obviously very outspoken in trying to get more bills passed to fight crime. So without any further ado, introduce Sheriff Bianco. Welcome.
Well, now that they cheered you all up, I'm glad I could come up here and continue the trend. Interesting. Thank you all for asking me to be here and address you all. I'm hoping to keep it brief, and I will certainly answer questions after. This is an awkward room to talk to. Half of you are not going to be able to see me. In making the arrangements for me to come out here, there were several questions that were posed to me that someone wanted me to talk about, and they're relatively easy, but because I had to listen to this, it threw me completely off track, and I have my phone just to get me back on track, but I can't not comment on things that I just heard. So I hope just because you all are here, you pretty much lost faith in government a long time ago. And if you think that they're being honest with you, I have some land for you. Cheap. There is nothing but ulterior motives, behind the scenes deals. Marijuana. So the state completely lied to everyone about marijuana. They were touting medical use of marijuana. It had absolutely nothing to do with medical use. It was about people wanting to get stoned. They touted Colorado, the success of Colorado, when we, especially in law enforcement, knew that Colorado was already a drastic failure. It was a complete failure while California was selling it to all of us. What a great job it was. And then came the biggie. We're going to get so much money in taxes. And so we, law enforcement, was obviously completely against all of this, and we told the reasons. And all of the reasons that we told have all now come to fruition, and we are having to deal with it while everybody else ignores it, and they still come up with reasons or ways that they can say we're going to tax our way out of it and how much money we're going to get in taxes and all the taxes that we were promised. Now let me ask you, you all seem, I'm going to just assume that you're all relatively intelligent people. If you were in the market for marijuana and you wanted a $100 bag of marijuana, I have $200 bags weighed out, they're worth $100. If you go down the street and you want to go into store A, who has their license and everything else, and this is a $100 bag of marijuana. If you can stop 3 doors down at an illegal place and pay $80, which one are you going to do? Who's going to pay the $100? None of you are paying $100. Hence, why there is no tax revenue like they promised that we were going to have. Because what we told them, the moment you legalize this, you are going to completely blow up, expand black market marijuana. So what happened when they legalized it? Our Anza Valley, which if you don't know, are from Idlewild down south to the San Diego border, is a beautiful, beautiful mountain area. Mostly, some flat, but steep mountains, and very fertile. Well, guess what it all turned into? Complete marijuana grows. There were just thousands and thousands and thousands of illegal marijuana grows. They're all illegal. But that's what happened to support what they said was going to be California's legal marijuana. The reality is probably about 95% of all of the marijuana that California law enforcement seizes, including pretty much all of ours that we seize, goes out of state. It goes to the east, it goes to the Midwest, it goes to the East Coast because they can't grow it like we do. And it is all being grown for THC. It's so you can get more stoned for the elderly crowd that's in here, me. If you smoked marijuana when you were young, which I didn't, but I have friends that did, it is nothing like the marijuana of today. Absolutely nothing. Maybe, 30, 40 years ago, marijuana was 5% to 9% THC. Now they're pushing 30 and 40% THC. And they're doing everything they can to get more and more and more of it. It has nothing to do with medicine. It's about stoning people. It's about people wanting to get stoned. That's all it is. And it has nothing to do with taxes. Nothing to do with taxes. They're not going to get revenue for taxes because the people are selling it illegally and they make more money. It's all cash and it's unfettered. They do it all they want. And the cities are going to get nothing. So if any time the city promises you they're going to bring more in and they're going to get more revenue, they are lying. Because law enforcement we are telling them they are lying. We are showing them they are lying. And what it does is it brings in, they said, the peace officer that got killed when he responded to the robbery. At least that's the only one that we know of, but plenty of law enforcement across California has been involved in shootings at dispensaries, where we respond to robberies or burglaries or other types of crimes that happen there. And it's not a matter of if a dispensary is going to get robbed or burglarized. They are. They will. It's not if, when. And sometimes multiple times. This one where the peace officer was killed, that was the second time in 2 hours they had been burglarized. So they invite crime. It is completely controlled by the drug cartels. And unfortunately, it's not only Mexican drug cartels, South American drug cartels. I don't even know why I said that. I said I was going to refuse, but there was I was on another meeting today. And unfortunately, there was a very ill-informed person that was speaking on the opposite side of what I was. And I was talking about the Mexican drug cartels and how they completely control our border. The security of the United States is in the hands of the Mexican drug cartels. I'm telling you that right now. And he called me a racist because I don't know that they're from Mexico. They could be from other South American countries. So I'm a racist because I'm calling them Mexican drug cartels.
He's at it. Let's go.
I know. So the unfortunate thing about marijuana, and then I'll get into fentanyl in a minute, but it's completely controlled by the drug cartels, Mexican drug cartels, and the Chinese mafia. And what we're learning is the Chinese government. The money is going back to the Chinese government. Everything that happens in China, it's a communist country, it's all for the government. And all of these grows are run by either Chinese nationals, Mexican nationals, and drug cartels, and there's even some Armenian gangs. It's all gangs, it's not normal people. There are certainly some mom and pop operations that try and make money off it illegally, but the vast majority are run by murderous, crime-ridden drug organizations. We have had several murders in Riverside County because of marijuana grows. We have had several murders because of dispensaries. And we had one mass murder. There were 7 people murdered in one illegal grow that we have yet to solve. It's been coming up on 3 years. I don't know if we'll solve it because there's just zero cooperation between, all of the victims that were there are dead. And then the people that we're trying to get information from are not cooperative. It's a Chinese national organization, we believe, and we probably will never find out. A couple of weeks ago, if you saw on the news, San Bernardino had theirs out in the desert where they had 6 that were killed. And the press acts like this is a big deal. Well, we've been reporting it for 3, 4, 5 years, but the press doesn't care. They actually call and ask us, was it gang related? Yes, okay, we don't want to report it. Was it marijuana related? Yes, okay, we're not going to report it. That's what happens. You're not getting the truth told to you. You're being sheltered from the truth, you're being misled, you're being lied to by the media, by our government in some situations, and it's unfortunate. So tying marijuana into one of the questions was about fentanyl, and another one was illegal immigration. So I'm going to cover both of them. So by a show of hands, who saw the Ohio Sheriff's press conference that he did a few days ago. If you go watch it, if you've watched it and you were disturbed by it, I can tell you it was 100% accurate. You can go to it and watch it if you want. I will say that he's a little bit hard to listen to. It's a Midwest Ohio, and you can tell. But it was an hour long. I probably watched 15 minutes. I already knew what was told because I was in the same place. So basically, he was in Washington, D.C. last week, and there was two organizations, national sheriffs and major county sheriffs. I didn't go to the national sheriffs just because I was going to the major county. Major county sheriffs is the top 100 largest sheriffs in the country. I'm number 5, if anyone cares, for all of you. We are a very large sheriff's office. And so we are there. It's a training seminar and meetings with our federal government partners, DEA, FBI, all of those people, but we get addressed by Homeland Security, the FBI, the directors, it's all heads. So it's all sheriffs in the room, and it's the heads of these agencies. So we were told by the FBI of the disaster of our border and the amount of people that have come across, and then we talk with Homeland Security, we talk with Border Patrol, they've all given the same stories. But so if anyone does not know, our border is 100% completely open. And I want to tell you something, as you're listening to the media and as you're listening to politicians, words are important. Words mean things. And they are using words to deceive you because you don't want to look into what they really mean or what they mean by saying those words. So one of the things that Secretary Mayorkas said when he was addressing us was that apprehensions at the border are at an all-time high. So I'm going to be very nice to my wife and not use the 4-letter word that's spelled L-I-A-R. So I'll just say dishonest. I called him dishonest. I actually used the 4-letter word and said, you've been lying to us dishonest to us for 3 years. You've been dishonest for the media for 3 years. You've been dishonest to the American public for 3 years. And you know 100% that the border is completely wide open. It is not secure. And the apprehensions that they claim they are doing, that is 100% true. They have the most apprehensions in history. It's in the millions, it's in the 10,000s a day. The problem with those apprehensions is before President Biden, when you were apprehended, you went back to the country you came from. Now when you're apprehended, you're given paperwork to belong in the United States and you're allowed to come back in. Every single one of them. The only exception is if we find you on a terror watch list. So the people that are coming across the border don't come with ID, if you can believe that. And they just give a name and a birth date. And so we run that name, Border Patrol runs that name and birth date through a database, and if it pops up as on a terror watch list, then we actually do send them back. So strangely enough, some people are so stupid that they actually do give their real name and birth date. And there's a handful of people in the last couple of years that have been deported back to their country of origin because they are on a terrorist watch list. But the ones where Joe Smith, birth date of yesterday, wow, that guy doesn't have a criminal record, or gal doesn't have a criminal record, we can't find him in any terrorist watch lists. Here's your green card, proceed into the United States. You now have a work permit, you can work, you can do whatever it is you want, but here's this ticket, you have to appear in court, and your court date is from 7 to 10 years from today. So if you think any of them are going to report to that court date, you're wrong. And your federal government is completely misleading everyone. The press is allowing them to do it. The media is not calling them on it. And we in law enforcement have to deal with it. I work very, very, very close with our Border Patrol, with our Homeland Security. We're on task forces. I go down to San Diego and El Centro repeatedly and meet with their chief, and they take me out on the border. I have been patrolling the border and come across 485 people coming across at once that were all detained, but they're giveaways. They purposely get detained. And what happens is the Border Patrol is under direction from the federal government, from the president, and through Mayorkas, who, does everyone know he got impeached this afternoon? Yes. I don't know what that's going to mean, probably not. But I was hoping it was because I told everybody that he was lying, but I don't think I had anything to do with it. I think everybody's just
Dishonest.
he's dishonest, yes. So, I lost my train of thought.
485.
So, what happens is, they are under direction from the federal government that they have to receive everyone. They have to detain everyone. So, 485 people come across at once, and it was in the San Diego sector. I was in the El Centro sector, but we were riding horses across the border, down through the mountains, and right at the border, as it comes into the San Diego sector, it's in a mountain, very treacherous mountainous area that goes into desert before it gets into more hills before San Diego. And 485 came across. How many people, Border Patrol, do you think it takes to secure that many people? They need vans. There's probably only 50 at the most Border Patrol agents working at one time. So you can imagine, all of them are now dealing with these 500 people that just came across. That is their direction. So while, and I told you this earlier, but I'll add it in a second. So while they are dealing with those 500, what do you think happens? All of the people that don't want to be caught now go around it. And there is absolutely nothing Border Patrol can do. Your lovely government has made it a crime for me to do anything. Local law enforcement, state law enforcement cannot do one single thing to assist Border Patrol, or we are guilty of a crime. And DOJ has said they will prosecute us. California DOJ said they will prosecute us. Hold your question. As these people are going around, those are the ones that we can't stop. I can't stop them just for running through the desert. And when I do stop them, they have now made it a crime that I can't ask them where they're from. I can't ask them if they're a citizen of the United States. I can't ask them any of that information. And if they don't have ID, too bad, so sad. If I can somehow find a way to legally search them, find drugs or find weapons or something like that, that's a different story. But otherwise, they're free to come into the country. And the ones that are coming into the country, we have absolutely no idea who they are. The ones that, and now let me tell you this. There was a huge phenomenon in 2023 that I'll talk about later when I'm talking about fentanyl numbers. But our border, our entire southern border, is 100% completely controlled by two drug cartels. The Jalisco and the Sinaloa drug cartels control the entire border. No one comes across that border without paying them. People are willing to pay up to $100,000 to the drug cartels to smuggle them in. Some people pay $5,000. The ones that, and this is a weird thing. You don't have to pay anything. You just walk across. They're letting you walk across. Our federal government is letting us walk across. It's free. They're having to pay to get past the drug cartels. So they pay $5,000, $10,000 each for the free entry into the U.S. And then someone else is going to pay $100,000. Why would someone pay $100,000 when you can do it for $5,000? That person doesn't want to get caught. So as soon as the drug cartel arranges for groups, they know how many Border Patrol are working, they know where they are working, and when the drug cartels plan these groups of give-ups, they release them, they let them go, they tell them where to go, where Border Patrol will meet them, Border Patrol has to meet them and start dealing with them, and then they run the $100,000 people around. The drug cartels, at least temporarily, are getting away from drug trafficking because they're making more money human trafficking. The amount of our agency recently stopped a load of fentanyl going back into Mexico because the cartel doesn't want to deal with it anymore. It's attracting too much attention. It took 4 years, but the federal government is finally cracking down on fentanyl. The DEA has made it their number one priority. Homeland Security, the same thing. Law enforcement, it's been our number one for the last 4 years. It's attracting too much attention to them. They can make more money on people. So they're letting gangs, Hispanic gangs, black gangs, Asian gangs, they're letting them go across the border, get the drugs, bring it across themselves, still paying the cartel, little factions of the cartel, but it's not, you can't directly put it on the cartel for doing it. It's a weird thing just because of the amount of people that are coming into the country and the amount of money that they're willing to pay. So all of this, we've been told all of this all week, and then the big ones come in, the FBI and Homeland Security. So FBI Director Christopher Wray comes in and tells us that they basically have no idea how many terrorists are in the country, who they are, or where they are. And it is an extreme alarm situation that it is not a matter, this is what that sheriff said on his video that he did, it really is going viral. He said that, he told them last week that it is not a matter of if, but a matter of when there is a terrorist attack on our soil. And what they are guessing, just by the number of known getaways, is there is a minimum, an absolute minimum. There is enough bad actors from the Middle East, from places that don't like us, that could carry out simultaneous attacks on the U.S., minimum 20 times of what we had in 9/11. So the amount of people that were here and the amount of people that it took for 9/11, there's 20 times at least in the country, and they have no idea who they are or where they are. And then Homeland Security comes in, the Director of Homeland Security comes in and tells us the border's secure. I will tell you, on good news, is that in the last several months, the good news is, and this goes back to something that you said, and I don't want to disparage you too bad, but you can't get away from the truth. The bad thing about law enforcement, I should have said this in the beginning. I say this everywhere I talk. If you put me in a room, I don't care who you put me in a room with, and you make me talk with them, and we have a debate, we have a forum, whatever it is you want to call it, the only person that you can count on telling the truth is me. I'm not saying that the others won't tell the truth because they want to out of the goodness of their heart and their character. The only one that is mandated to tell the truth is me. As a law enforcement leader, as a law enforcement officer, especially a leader, I affect the entire department. If I say something that is not true, I disqualify myself from this position. I cannot be a law enforcement officer in the state of California if I've perjured myself. Perjure is a nice way to say I lied. So all of these things that I'm telling you, no one ever calls me on it. No one ever says you're lying. No one ever says, because they know I'm not. I'm simply not, and I never will. So when I hear others that are, it's amusing sometimes. But for the last 4 years, I have been in Sacramento, I've been meeting with our legislators, and we have been trying to fix our broken judicial system here in California. And this is where I mean words mean things. The criminal justice reform that is being forced on all of us. Now just take the words, criminal justice reform. Does anybody think that's a good idea? Criminal justice reform. Well, then you just know what it really means now. But had you not known what it means, it sounds like a good idea. Reform means something is broken and something needs to be fixed. It's criminal justice is broken, we need to fix it. I 100% agree with that. 100% agree with it. But words mean things. Or it's your leaders that are lying to you and misleading you. Because their version of law enforcement reform is criminals are victims. They are victims of society. They are victims of law enforcement. They are victims of their parents. They are victim. And law enforcement is perpetually evil, racist, biased, and needs to be eliminated. That is their version of criminal justice reform. If you don't believe me, you need to spend 4 days, you don't even have to spend all 5 of the week. 4 days, you spend 1 day and figure it out, but if you're a little bit hard-headed, spend 4 in Sacramento and listen to their conversations, and you will hear that law enforcement is the enemy, criminals are victims, and it's all because of racist cops. Racist and biased cops. And it is completely a flat-out lie. And so what we have are laws that prevent me from doing my job of keeping you safe. We are eliminating laws that hold criminals accountable. We are eliminating laws that make crimes crimes. If I told you that we need to pass an initiative, I'm going to get an initiative on the ballot, and it's going to be called the Safe Streets Initiative. We'll add schools. Schools are bad. So it's going to be called the Safe Streets and Safe Schools Initiative. How many people are going to vote for that? I am. Well, I am because I'm putting it on the ballot. It's going to be a real one. The problem with that is, you all voted, not all. I don't want to accuse anybody, but 65% of all of you. So if you the 35%, don't raise your hand. We'll just assume it's all of us. 65% of you voted for the Safe Streets Initiative. It was called Prop 47 that has completely destroyed this state. Prop 47, AB 109 started it. AB 109 is prison realignment. That is when they decided that prisoners would no longer go to state prison. They will go to county jails, and the county would be responsible for them. Then they could lower the population of state prisons and then close them. So that was the start of it. And then shortly after that was Prop 47, Safe Streets and Safe Schools Initiative, that made felonies misdemeanors, misdemeanors nothing, and it actually made some felonies nothing. So what used to be a crime before 2014 is no longer a crime. So the words mean things. So right now, they are telling you that their policies have lowered crime. They'll show you stats. They'll show you stats that crime is going down. Who in here thinks crime is going down? I'm telling you right now, my deputies are more busy than ever in my 30-year career I ever thought I could be busy. There are more deputies out there, and they are busier than what I was. Crime is not going down. Crime is skyrocketing. Violent crime is skyrocketing. The problem is they're comparing it to crime where it used to be a crime. So in everything that used to be a crime, 2014 when it passed, this is what the graph does. It's all going down, and they're going to look at it and say, look how great we are. Our policies reduced crime. Well, if nobody's in trouble for something that they did, of course that's not a crime. What it did is it made crimes not crimes, and then it made it to where businesses, big businesses especially, our big box stores, our mom and pop stores, and some people, they don't report it anymore. They just don't report it. It's not worth it. Good people feel bad for the cops. They think that we're overworked, we have too much to do, we have more important things to do with violent crime. It's a property crime. It was my lawnmower that was stolen. It was my car that was stolen. Insurance will pay for it, get it back. I'm not even going to report it. Those are the things. Big businesses don't even report crimes anymore. That's why they're all leaving. That's why Walgreens are closing. That's why Targets are closing and they're leaving the state. It's too expensive to operate here because of all the theft. And it's no longer a crime. And it's your legislators that have done that to us. I got busy on the state instead of the federal and fentanyl, but what you can all be assured of is that we work extremely well with our federal partners, the DEA, the FBI, Homeland Security. We have people on their task forces, and they have people on our task forces. And what that does, it's minimal compared to I've got 4,000 employees, and I maybe have 20 on a task force, maybe 40 on a task force on various federal task force, and then they have some that come into ours and make it so I don't have to get anybody to them. But what that does is it somewhat bypasses the state laws of a sanctuary state. So if I have a task force that a Border Patrol agent is on, and we come across crimes that my deputies are investigating, and there's illegals there, or maybe they may be there illegally, they don't have documentation, that Border Patrol officer can now take over that investigation. And if we have been cross-sworn, then we can do that too as a federal officer. So it's not it's a legal loophole or legal way around the horrible law that they gave to us with being a sanctuary state. And we are doing everything we can to make it better. The federal government is now, because of, I will take credit because it was me, but it was a cooperation with the two chiefs from San Diego Sector Border Patrol and El Centro Sector Border Patrol that control the southern border, our southern border, California's southern border. I don't know, I can't remember if it's 54 or 56, I just had a brain on my head. 54 or 56% of all border crossings come through California. Because of that, and because I have been so vocal, and because we have two great Border Patrol chiefs for the San Diego and the El Centro sector that are past their retirement age, that don't give a crap anymore. They're tired of being lied to. They're tired of not being able to do their job. They're being very vocal too. And the federal government shifted $250 billion for Border Patrol that was supposed to go Florida, Texas, Arizona, and they put it all in San Diego. What that's going to do is it's going to fund some of our task forces, our drug interdiction task forces. It's going to completely bring a lot more Border Patrol agents to California to stop the flow of people that are coming in across our border. And they really are actually trying now. However, this is where I was going with this. For 4 years, I've been beating my head against the wall and no one will listen. The federal government won't listen, the state won't listen, nobody listens. The press won't listen, they won't report it. I tell the press doesn't tell any of you. And now all of a sudden, the state of California, your legislators, they're introducing bills in this brand new cycle that just started in January. They're introducing bills that appear that people are going to go to jail again. They're going to start holding people accountable. Federal government is dumping $250 million into California. Fentanyl is number one. The border is number one. All of this. Why? Why not from 2021 till 2024? It's an election year. It's an election year. It's nothing but an election year. I'm going to Sacramento next Tuesday to testify. I'll testify in a hearing, but I'm doing a press conference with other law enforcement officers and a couple of representatives that is basically going to be calling them out. The media, the good thing about Sacramento is they never know what the press conference is going to be. So the San Francisco, the Bay Area, the Sacramento media all shows up, and then they're kind of stuck. They don't know, they didn't know it was going to be us talking. They just knew there was a press conference, and then they get there and it's like, oh crap, it's the cops. So they're almost forced to listen to us, and then maybe it'll make the news, but it'll certainly make social media, and we'll certainly get the word out. But I'm going to ring the alarm that it's all BS. These bills that they're putting through right now are complete BS. For instance, one of them, because I am so vocal, I've found that I'm very unpopular in Sacramento, but none of them want to be on my bad side. And so they ask me, or they ask my legislative assistant or legislative person that I actually have in Sacramento, if I would be willing to side with them on a bill. One of them was about theft. And it was making theft go back down to $450 instead of the $950 to make it a felony. And then he said, I'm like, yeah, that's good. That's Prop 47. That's good. That's what we're all trying for. And then so I'm talking to him face to face as he's telling me this, and Julio's behind me, and he keeps elbowing me or whatever he was doing. And I'm like, okay, what? And so I kind of distance myself, go talk to him, and then he tells me what's really in the bill. So he almost had me, because he seemed very believable. And how can he sit and lie to my face? He would never lie to my face. But yes, that's what it was going to make it a felony. It was going to make the $450 a felony, and you would actually go to jail for it on the fourth time. So I said, why 4? Why not 8? Why not 12? Or here's something, why not 1? Why not 1? And then, so then I get accused of being racist, I get accused of the school to prison pipeline, all of these things that are emotionally charged but are complete fabricated lies. There's no such thing. The school to prison pipeline, that's the biggest one. You are in a position right now, and this is what, I was in, it was a bad spot, you guys calling me today, just because of who I had to talk to this morning, and my blood pressure went way up, and it hasn't come down yet. But it is so in the open, the hypocrisy of Sacramento, the laws that they are passing, how one opposes the other, they just don't make sense. And a lot of them are directed at juveniles. We know right now that over half of the crime being committed is committed by juveniles. Why do you suppose that is? They don't get in trouble. What if I told you that they made it a law that law enforcement officers cannot talk to juveniles? That's a truth. Recently, in the last couple of years, they made it a law where it is illegal for any of my deputies to interview, talk to, anything for a juvenile suspected of committing a crime. You can't talk to him. Why? Because they claim that they're not old enough to be able to make good decisions. And then the bill that passed, the wording that was in it was they were going to increase the age of a juvenile to 26. So anyone below 26 would be considered a juvenile because science has said that your brain isn't fully developed until you're 25, and you're incapable of making good decisions until you're 25. So that means you're a juvenile because you can't make good decisions, you can't be counted on to know the difference between the truth and a lie. You don't know what's right or wrong, and that's what they proposed. We got that stricken out of it, but we were not able to get the part stricken out that we can't talk to them. So at least juveniles are still under 18. But this is the same lawmakers that are making it legal for a 10-year-old to decide they want to be a girl instead of a boy, and without their parents' knowledge, have the surgery to do it. And they're working on passing those laws too. It just doesn't make sense. Nothing makes sense. So juveniles are committing the crimes. We knew it was going to happen. If you are an adult, do you want to recruit a juvenile to go commit the burglary, or do you want to go do it yourself? Just get the kid to do it. They're going to want to do it because they want to fit in. They want to feel cool. Give the guns to the kids because the kids don't get in trouble for it. There's no more juvenile hall. They don't go to juvenile hall. There's no accountability for anything because it's my fault. It's my fault. It's a school to prison pipeline. They want to pass a law now that is going to make it illegal for law enforcement to be on school campuses. Now, if anyone remembers, we're all in here, we're old enough and smart enough to know that the reason why cops are in campuses is because of the Colorado shooting, that it was like, holy crap, how are our kids not protected? Our kids can't learn if they're unsafe. Our cops can't respond to violence on schools if they're 10, 15 minutes away, it's too late. We need cops in campuses. So all across the country, we've got school resource officers that are absolutely amazing. They do amazing jobs. They're counselors, they're coaches, they're dads or moms when they don't have them at home. They're teachers, and sometimes they're cops. Rarely, but sometimes they're cops. But people get in trouble at school. They get arrested. They get arrested for selling drugs. They get arrested for molesting kids. They get arrested for pimping out their peers. They get arrested for fights. They get arrested for guns, all kinds of those things. And there is a thing called mandatory reporting. Teachers, any teachers in here? Are you a mandatory reporter?
Absolutely.
Absolutely you are. A mandatory reporter, or teachers, for lack of, law enforcement's mandatory reporter, that goes without saying. But teachers, doctors, nurses, school counselors, anybody that has to do with kids, the medical field, they're all mandatory reporters. And what that means is when they come across a case that is either appears to be violence, appears to be rape, appears to be child neglect, child abuse, sexual abuse, any of those things, they are mandated to report that. They are mandated to report that. So last Friday, I arrested a principal from a Harupa Valley School District for failing to report. If several weeks before that, I also arrested a deputy who was using illegal drugs. We found out, we arrested him, we fired him, he's gone. We're not perfect. We try to be. Some of us think we are. My wife tells me I'm not. We strive to be, but we know we're not. When that happened, our phones would not stop. National media wanted statements. They wanted me. They wanted me on camera. They wanted my response to one of my deputies using drugs. How dare you, you evil person. So I arrest a principal from a high school for mandatory reporting requirement violation and book them in jail. Not one media inquiry. Not one. How does that happen? Someone's not curious. Why did you arrest a principal for not reporting? Maybe because I would have reported. I'll come. You're being very adamant now, so I'm going to come to you as soon as I finish this. 6 months ago, we started an investigation. This is how long ago this happened. Because 2 people reported that they were victimized at school. Parents and the students told the principal, and they did nothing. We found out 6 months later from a parent that said, "What's going on with this investigation?" And we're like, "What investigation?" So we start looking into it. There are now 7, I'm sorry, that's a different story. There are 7 victims that were molested by a teacher, and they knew about it, and they failed to report it. They were arrested.
Good.
We started an investigation today. In the next couple of weeks, I'm going to arrest another one for the same thing. This started in October. There were 2 victims in October, there are now 10. And law enforcement just found out about it today. That principal is going to get arrested. And it appears that there may be some administrators from the school district that get arrested too. This is an unbelievable phenomenon we have in our state, where you have lawmakers that are trying to make it to where you no longer have to be a mandated reporter. Why? Who in their right mind would say, "Yeah, I don't think we should report crimes against kids"? Who would say that? But that's the position that we're in. And it's an election year, so we're getting a little bit of results. And as bad as last year was with bad laws, we knew that this year wasn't going to be as bad because it's an election year. The people that are all up for election right now know that people are sick of this state. Our state is a laughing stock of the country. The greatest state in the country used to be the California dream, now the California nightmare. And it's not because of the people. It's not because of the weather. It's not because of the beaches, the mountains, the snows, the desert. It's because of the politics. It's because of the complete lack of caring of California residents. And now back to the election year with Senator Roth. So I appreciate that he's holding off on that. Imagine how he's trying to keep one of the largest organizations in his voting district happy when he's going to be running for supervisor right now. So yes, it's a bill in Sacramento because he has till the end of the year there. But he wants all of your vote to be a supervisor in March.
See through it. See through it.
So it's great that he's holding off. I hope he's making it right and not just delaying the inevitable. But we have to, I think you are all here because you're all tired of it. and you're all cluing in. I want to tell you that I believe the vast majority, 95% minimum, and it's probably more, of our population are good people. We are good, law-abiding, upstanding people that we have more in common than we have differences. And we're all getting tired of this.
That's right.
Bianco, the president.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't want to be in Washington. I just came back from Washington. That's an odd place. The history's great, but it's an odd place. You all are feeling it. You all are tired of it. And you're coming together in groups like this, not just in our county, not just in Mission Grove and Woodcrest and Orangecrest and Paris and Temecula, Moreno Valley, the desert. It's all over. All of these groups are like 5 times, 10 times, 20 times larger than what they were 5 years ago. Because they're tired of it. And what I blame it on is apathy. We just didn't care. If it didn't, you put your blinders on and you look at your kids, you look at your spouse, everything's good, I'm going to work, I've got a good job, I'm paying my bills, my kids are happy, my wife's happy, my husband's happy, my parents are happy, my job, it's a good job, everything's good, nothing else affects me. Now it does. Now everything is affecting us. First time ever, we have an exodus from California. 1 million people left California. It's never happened ever. Businesses are leaving us. What's worse is my beloved In-N-Out Burger is closing stores. I mean, how does that happen? Okay, before we get too long, yes, sir. I'm going to give you 2 questions because you've raised your hand like 5 times, so I know it's different questions.
I only have one question. And I asked it totally out of ignorance. So I think everybody in this room might want to know the answer to it, unless they all know and I don't. Here's my question. What rule is there, what law is there that says that you, as head of the sheriff's department, or the sheriff's department, can't start your own YouTube channel and put all the stuff that you're seeing on YouTube to get the public on your side? Because I think if what you're saying, I'm loud enough, I don't need it. I think that if what you're saying, I take your word, it's true, then showing it and getting it so that all of us, you are now on equal footing with the media, you are on equal footing with the large corporations, in that there is YouTube, there is Nebulous, there are several other video channels that will have a large enough audience around the world that if what you can show us, we can see, that would get the public more on your side and more in the, I guess you'd call it the...
You're 100% right, and there is no rule. We should be doing that. So in 2020, I don't remember when I started, 2022, I started really a massive, we have a very big social media presence in our agency, the sheriff's office does. And I do as a personal followings. And so I was going to use that to promote those types of things. So my failure is, in 2022 we started it, and we have a podcast. It's called the RSO Roundup. It's going to continue to be called the RSO Roundup. And it's basically going to be talking about all of these things. We started it, we were maybe like 15, 20 episodes in of getting everyone accustomed to what's going on with laws and with politics, and I was promising that we were going to be pushing the limit on getting in trouble with the things that I can say online and the things that I can't. And unfortunately, we failed last year because the beginning of 2023 is when we had our deputies that were murdered, and then a couple of months go by, we're dealing with that for a couple of months, we lose 2 more, and then before long it's August, and now I'm trying to make up everything that we had canceled for the first 8 months. And we completely neglected our social media and the podcast. So now we're coming back with it, and we are putting them on YouTube.
Let me interrupt you for just 1 second. Most people are not going to, most people will tune into something like that to learn something. But to do what you're trying to do, you don't want people to tune in and watch 2 people sitting there talking to each other. What I'm suggesting is that you show the body camera footage of the things that you're saying are happening. The images, one image speaks for 1,000 words, so therefore, show the stuff that we want to see, not tune us into, okay, this is happening over here. In other words, the talk you're giving us tonight, here, nobody wants to hear you talk it, we want to see it happening, so that we can get on.
I got it. So I'll say again, I will promise you this. My first one is tomorrow morning. We already have it, at 9 o'clock in the morning, I'm filming it. And it's just going to be me. This particular one is talking about inmate deaths. And it's everything that we're experiencing in the jail with inmate deaths. That if you believe everything in the media and everything from the people that hate me, it's I'm killing everyone. So we're going to tell everyone why they're actually dying, how they're dying, and it has nothing to do with law enforcement. And it's actually a problem caused by the state that's forcing it now into county jails that used to just be a state prison problem. And we're hoping that we do it once a week. If we can do it more, we'll do that. If it has to be every 2 weeks, we'll do it. But I can promise you, you can say from this point forward, I'm the cause of that. I made him do that. And we are going to do it because it's almost to the point, and I told my wife when we came back from Washington after this week, I was so frustrated. I was so disgusted that it's so easy to be lied to and misled when you expect people to be doing the right thing. And no one cares. The media is not calling them out. You've got our governor that comes on a press conference and lies in the media. You can see how much they love him and they just smile and they're giddy about him being there. And it's how are these people not being called out? And I told my wife, I said, I'm done. I'm going to start calling them out. I'm going to be more vocal than I already was. If there's a media that is not letting us all know, then I will help be that catalyst that does let us know. So you're 100% right. Yes, ma'am.
Two things. There's a bill right now, and I didn't bring my notes because I work with a coalition, that's actually going to make it illegal for schools to report to the police a sexual assault on the campus, student on student. It's literally in the legislature right now. But I want to go back to the border. I don't know if anybody watched the Brett Weinstein interview on the Darien Gap. And the fact that there's a male Chinese camp down in Panama that they get housed at, and then they make their way up to our border. And I'm concerned, like you've already said, like I think we're all aware of, that there's this massive open border, and now you've said they've admitted in Washington they have no idea how many bad guys are here, but there's a lot of them. So as I don't have a CCW, I don't want one only because I'm too old. I feel like I'm too old. I know how to shoot the gun, but I don't know if I want to go like that. But what do we do to make ourselves safer and our families safer, given the fact that we don't know who's out and about?
Right. That's a good question. And we really don't know who's out there. I just read right before I came home today that in 2020, the CBP, Border Patrol, detained coming into the country something like 26 or 25 Chinese nationals. And so far, this fiscal year, 20,000.
Yeah.
And here's the problem with that. They're all military-age males that they let into the country. They're all here. And the problem also with that is it's also people from Pakistan, Turkey, Iran, Syria, all of the places that hate us, that would do us harm, they're all here. So that is a legitimate question, because if you listen to the FBI director, him saying it's just a matter of when. So the only thing that I can tell you is that you have to be aware. You have to be aware of your surroundings. You have to report something. If something looks out of normal, you have to report it. If you, show of hands, how many, on all four sides of you, how many of you know the first and last name of your neighbors on all four sides? That's actually pretty good.
I make a nuisance out of myself.
Don't be a nuisance, you want to be the nice guy. You have to know who your neighbors are. You have to know who your neighbors are, who belongs in your neighborhood. And if they don't belong in your neighborhood, you need to make notes as to why. What's the type of car? What did they look like? Were they male, female? What, if you can decide what race they were, guess, what did it look like? If they live there and they don't want to be friendly and there are weird things that are going on in the middle of the night, you need to tell us. You need to report it to law enforcement. The worst thing for us is for us to come across a horrible situation and find out that the neighborhood's known for months and everybody thought everybody else was reporting it because they didn't want to be the one to do it. And then for your surroundings, you have to be aware of your surroundings. When you go out, you have to be aware of what's around you. If you go to a store, this is the worst thing in the world. Worst thing in the world on so many different levels. But if you are on this, you aren't paying attention to anything. You're probably going to fall into a hole because you're not paying attention to where you are. But you're certainly not paying attention to the person that's following you, or the car that's right behind you, or the two guys that are following you in the parking lot that are going to steal your purse, or your groceries, or your car. You have to be aware. You have to be aware. And if something seems out of place, yell for somebody else. Get somebody's attention so someone else looks over, and when you draw attention to them, they'll leave. And I know you don't want to. I know you don't want a CCW, and you don't want to have a gun.
I have a gun,
But
but it's at home in my safe.
That's a good place for it.
Very
But
good.
if you're in the parking lot of Costco, it's going to do nothing for you sitting at home in your safe. So that's another thing that I want to tell you. Gun violence. Words mean things. They're playing on your emotions. There is absolutely no such thing as gun violence. There are 450 million guns in this country. 450 million guns in this country. If guns committed violence, we would all be dead. Guns don't commit violence. It's not gun violence. It's violent people committing crimes with a gun. And as long as we allow them to call it gun violence, we're going to fall in the emotional struggle of right and wrong and just go along with the program, and they're going to pass these stupid laws that take your right to protect yourself away from you. Because these horrible, horrible gun control laws that they are implementing only affect this room. Because not one single criminal says, I was going to rob the 7-Eleven, but the sheriff wouldn't give me a CCW. That doesn't happen. Law-abiding people come to the sheriff and say, I would like a permit to carry a gun on my person and not get in trouble for it. So far in 5 years, I've given 40,000 people in Riverside County. How many people out of 40,000 did something wrong with their gun in the 5 years? Zero. How many in the state of California? We have a little over 100,000 permits in the state of California. Yes, I will have more than half at one point, but I'm not there yet. How many people in the state of California with CCWs have committed crimes with their CCW? Absolutely zero. Absolutely zero. If they did, we would all know about it. Now, I've taken away 150 something permits for them doing something wrong. They got a DUI. I've suspended their permit until they finish the adjudication of their criminal case. Their permit is suspended because they're going to be on probation and prevented from having a gun. They're going to be convicted possibly, and that may have ramifications to it. But we suspend those. But no one has ever committed a crime with their CCW. There are 4 people that have used their gun to save their life. One lady shot at somebody and missed, but when she did, the person ran. The neighbor caught him and held him when we got there and arrested him. Another man held 2 people inside of his house at gunpoint, and we got there and arrested them that were breaking into his house. Now that doesn't really apply to CCW because it's in his house, he didn't need one, but he was a CCW permit holder and he used that gun, so that was one that I used. 2 others used the guns during a robbery as they were being robbed, and they shot, and one of them shot and killed the perpetrator, and the other one shot one of them. He did not die. We arrested him about 100 yards away from where he got shot. We tracked the blood, and he was caught, and he's in jail now. So 4 times it's been used. 2 people's lives were saved, possibly 4, and not one thing has gone wrong. So a gun in a law-abiding resident's hand is nothing but a safety tool. That's all it is. A criminal, it's a tool for bad actions. And that's what we need to address. We don't hold anybody accountable for gun crimes. Do you know it's not a violent crime to shoot at a police officer? Not in California, it's not considered a violent crime. It's also not a violent crime to rape an unconscious woman. These laws have actually been passed by people. There are people passing these laws that think that's okay. Why? And we're voting for them. Or somebody's voting for them. Yes, sir.
I'm with an organization that tries to teach Americans what to do. Because we go to these meetings that are wonderful, but we hear about the problem. And a lot of times when you walk away and you don't know what to do about it, it almost makes you want to just give up. 4 years ago, I took 2 people with me to see Sabrina Cervantes. And I asked her the same question I asked every person who's running for office. According to the Declaration of Independence, what's the purpose of government? And invariably, whether it's Cervantes or Senator Roth or Karen Spiegel even, they all say the same thing. It's to protect the people. That's baloney. According to the Constitution, according to the Declaration of Independence, governments are instituted to protect the rights of the people. I'll protect myself. I don't need the government. I don't need cops coming to protect me in my house. But with Cervantes, I asked her that, and I said, ma'am, your job is to protect my rights, and I'm expecting you to do it. 4 months later, she sponsored a bill that would make my priest a felon for simply counseling someone about sexual dysphoria. We hit her with affidavits. We called her out. We said, this is your responsibility to protect the rights of the priests as well as the American people to speak out on any issue like this. You have no right to sponsor a bill like this.
Hold it away.
What's that?
The feedback, just bring it away from your mouth a little bit more. We're all hearing the feedback.
Oh. Okay. So what happened was the bill was eventually withdrawn. The House, the Assembly, and the Senate both voted on it. Jerry Brown was ready to sign it, and for some reason they pulled it. 6 months later, the Assembly came out. This time, we're not going to pass a law, we're going to pass a resolution. Sabrina didn't even sponsor the resolution. We have to call these people out.
You're
I've got
100%
affidavits
correct.
on Bonta, I've got affidavits on Takana. This is how we get them. It's in the First Amendment. It's called the right to petition for redress of grievances. And a good synonym for redress is remedy. I want remedy.
The beauty of this country is that every 2 years and every 4 years, we get to fix mistakes we may have made. And the problem is what I said a little bit ago, is apathetic people, apathetic voters that don't know who they're voting for, that affect the rest of us. And unfortunately, we get stuck with these people. And if you look, how many years has she been in office? A lot. She's turned out of the Assembly, and now she's running for Senate. And so the vocal people, the people that know this, and that's why I'm saying the beauty of groups like this, because we're tired of it. You're absolutely right. The problem is we're slow to get going. We're slow to make up lost time. The ruling party right now, and the place that we are with all of these bad laws and everything else, it didn't happen last year. It didn't happen the year before. It started 30 years ago. And they've been gradually doing this, gradually pulling away some of our rights, tugging at those rights, pushing the limits on whether or not they're going to violate them or take away our constitutional rights. And because it didn't directly affect us at the time, we just went to work, we took care of our kids, we raised our kids to the best of our ability, and it didn't matter. Well, now it's mattering. Because that beautiful thing you're referring to, the Constitution, is seriously under attack. They don't like it. They don't like it. Your gun rights are the Second Amendment is not a right given to you by government. That's an inalienable right of protection that God gave us all. If you're going to go back to the forming of our country, that's where they came up with the Bill of Rights. Those are the rights that are ours no matter what. And if it's not listed in the government, or if it's not listed in there, then it doesn't belong to the government. And we've allowed the encroachment of all of these different things. Some of it was because of apathy. Some of it was because, it's a good benefit. It helped me out a little bit, or it's not too bad. But it's just digging away and digging away. And now we're at the point where everyone is upset, everyone is annoyed, everyone is being affected. But it takes election cycles to get people out. And the number one thing that you have to start asking, this is what I will tell you. Did anyone watch presidential, or it's not even the president, between the two governors, between our loser governor and Florida's governor? If you listen to that, the Florida governor was bringing up schools, was bringing up crime, was bringing up all of these issues, and what were all of the answers? All of the answers from Newsom and the rebuttal from Newsom was about LGBTQ. It was about abortion. It was about Roe v. Wade. It was about all these things. Well, let me tell you something. Roe v. Wade, abortion, LGBTQ, none of those things are destroying this state. None of those things are destroying the state and making it to where we all can't live here. None of us can afford a house. If you're in a house, great, because you're never going to buy another one. The cost of living is going so high that we're all poor, we're all broke. You can't build houses anymore. The regulations that government has imposed upon us, the laws that they have imposed upon us, and taken my ability to keep you safe are unbelievable. They're unbelievable. And it's because all we care about during the election debates is arguing about abortion and LGBTQ and who's the biggest racist. None of those things are real. It's a distraction so we don't have to talk about we're the worst for crime, we're the worst for schools, we're the highest for taxes, we're the highest for gas, we're the highest for regulation for building, we're the highest taxes in business, we're the highest regulations on business. Every category that is bad, California is number 1 or number 2.
Chad for governor.
Yeah. So what you're saying, what's the question? What's your question?
My question would be to you. If you get an affidavit based on law, specifying what you're doing wrong, and your name's at the top of the affidavit, and it says at the bottom, if you don't rebut this in 30 days, you can be held accountable in any court in the country. Would you consider what's in the affidavit, or would you just toss it in the trash, like a letter? Because an affidavit is not a letter.
You and I, we'll have a larger discussion of that, because an affidavit, any discussion about an affidavit for probably 90% of the people, 95% of the people in here that don't know what that is, we would be wasting our time. But you and I will have this conversation about that.
Time for one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say, we're talking about Proposition 47. I was down at Vaughan, down at the Riverside Plaza, and there was a gal had a petition for you to sign
Yeah, here.
saying that Proposition
Also.
47 was trying to get on the ballot
Yes.
to repeal it.
Yes,
So what you were saying is, what was, and the verbiage that was on it, the reading part of it, it's not anything like it was like, oh, we're gonna repeal it, so it goes back to being a felony instead of misdemeanor. So they were selling it in that direction. So if you ever ask it, because it was
Yes.
last week,
I'm gonna state your question because I know what you're getting at and I'll answer it for you. So the people down here couldn't hear you. So Prop 47, nightmare. We tried 2 years ago to repeal Prop 47, it was Proposition 20, and y'all voted it down. 65% of the people voted it down. And the reason you voted it down is because the name of the proposition sounded good. It was like, oh yeah, I need to do that. That's horrible, I would never support that. So y'all voted no, and you should have voted yes, because we were trying to repeal Prop 47. So now, there's going to be a new proposition, they're still getting signatures and everything else, but they will get it on the ballot for November, that is going to repeal the majority, not all, the majority of Prop 47. All of the bad, horrible things that they know they did, that they're just too embarrassed to admit to, it will repeal it. So the petition that is going around, if anyone tells you the wording of Prop 47 on the ballot, repealing Prop 47, sign the petition. We have to get it on the ballot, and there will be a much better campaign to get you to vote the right way. Because what we know already, it's up to the Secretary of State to decide the name of the initiative. We don't get to decide it. They do. And so we want it to be yes. We want you to vote yes. They're going to word it so you say, I would never support that in a million years. No, because you don't take the time to read into what it really is. And you listen to it, you listen to the little pros and the cons that are on it from the Jarvis Taxpayers Association, whatever it is. So Prop 47 we have to repeal. I saw in there that you guys are all in agreement that no on Prop 1, right?
yes.
And for this point forward, for the next 2 years, anything that the governor supports is opposite. There is not one single thing he is doing that is for the betterment of California. One more? One more question, he said, and we're done. Because they won't serve breakfast.
Sure. You brought the issue up of the Constitution. I think if we were asked the question, what is the supreme law of the land, we'd probably say that that's the highest authority. We would say it's the Constitution. But we don't know what it is. We don't know how to enforce it. And we're to rely on elections is to ask your employees to fix your business. We are the employers. We are the greater magistrate. So the question is, how can we as a people have some short-term wins and work on a longer-term solution that's going to flip this whole story around by establishing the county ordinances for a grand jury, by establishing the state-regulated militias, not these wild people out there, and to start using the law as has been done with minorities. The reason why he was finally impeached is because the people that ran the arguments and the prosecution were informed by people who had studied the law and showed them the problem of jurisdiction, which in this case, in the border, there's no provisions in the Constitution among the 17 stipulations we gave to the federal government. There's nothing about aliens or migrations or invasions, stuff like that. That's all belongs to the states. And if we were organized locally, and if we were to stand up to our state and get in place our militias and our grand juries, we would have local authority, and we would be able to make some dramatic impacts. And I think as far as us getting studied, and you mentioned a number of times, I'm starting to get nervous for some reason. You mentioned a number of times about the precision of language, which is absolutely correct. The language of the law is very specific, and there's historical context to it. And the Constitution was written with that kind of specificity. So it's going to be up to us. You know, if you want to talk about 2 Chronicles 7:14 about helping ourselves, we need to get down and study law and become the boss that we were that we are, as the trustors to the trust of the Constitution, because we are the beneficiaries, but they're not delivering the benefits to us. And so all these laws that they're making, these statutes and ordinances and mandates, they're all below the authority of the Constitution. And they're operating outside their jurisdiction. We're not holding them accountable. But they're making all these, edicts and mandates. So if there is anything, I would ask you, it would be, do you know of any organization that's teaching people how to enforce the Constitution? And are there things we can do here locally to support you in the department, whether it's the border or other issues, that you can do so without, losing your job?
Yes, so I'm going to answer that in a roundabout way, in a little negativity, but tell you that I'm not supporting this. I'm going to tell you where we are. I believe we're in the greatest country in the world. I really do. I mean, so does everybody else. They may be trying to lessen us because you can't bring up the rest of the world, so they've decided they have to bring us down. I don't believe in that. I believe that we are the greatest country in the world, and we should always be the greatest country in the world. We are, unfortunately, our government has been infiltrated by people we have put in place that have an agenda to lower our status in the world and lower us to be closer to a third world country than making the third world country model themselves after us and raising it up. So the only way that we can change that, and this is the bad thing about recording, and I am not advocating for this, but our founding fathers said that instituted among men and all those things, and when a government is no longer by the people, then that government will be removed. So how is it removed? You can look at it two ways. I do not want, and I would never advocate for a civil war. I mean, that is not, if it happened, we would win in a heartbeat. We're the only ones that like guns. It would be a very short war. I'm not advocating for that. I'm advocating for what is happening now with people finally standing up and being vocal, because 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, and 200 years ago, everyone was vocal about who they were putting in office. Everyone knew where everyone stood that they were going to put into office. And it was a government by the people, because they made sure, what are you saying about making the workers, run the business? They were making sure, the people were making sure that the people that they were putting in there were going to do right by them. I know it's not the answer that anyone wants to hear, but that's why we have elections. And when we have everybody rising up, and when we have when we've all decided that we're sick and tired of Democrats and Republicans, and we just want men and women of good character, when we get to that point, it will be fixed. And we will once again be a very engaged and vocal community, putting people in those government positions that are doing right by the rest of us.
Amen.
The problem with that is the way our government was instituted is to do it the right way. We're not a third world country that has coups and overthrows and military actions. We have to do it the right way. So I do not know, I know of a couple of constitutional teachers and classes that are put on. There's one good one, it was in Temecula, but I think he moved to Orange County, but he's pulling everyone with him over into that. And he has a very, very large following, a radio show, and he puts classes on and everything else. And then I know there's a small one out in the desert that has routine classes about the Constitution. I don't know of any big, good one. But the beauty is there's people asking the questions. So we're all becoming more informed of what has got us into this position. And the more we're getting informed, we're going to know how to get out of it. Yes?
Have you heard of tacticalcivics.com?
No.
That's what they're doing. They're raising up people in every county. They have members of their organization, 50% of the county are public. And their goal is to use the law to repel the evil,
Right.
and to bring these people down.
Good. And that's what we have to do. Everyone has to be informed. You have to talk to your neighbors. You have to talk to your families. The divide has to go, because I can tell you, I guarantee you there is someone in here that is, I will just say, I'm anti-abortion. I'm anti-abortion. I guarantee you, there is someone in here that is pro-life. And I also guarantee you that we can hug and be friends and talk and everything's gonna be fine. And we can be great friends because we have far more things in common than that silly little thing.
Yes.
Than that tiny little thing. That's not what is harming us. It's the divide, it's the using race, it's using gender, it's using all of these things to mask what you're talking about finding out the truth, that they shouldn't be doing this in the first place, and we need to remove them. And when we start getting so vocal, and we start getting bigger, and when you need an auditorium instead of a country club, then we know we're doing the right thing.
Amen.
Okay, I got the hook. I get the hook all the time. So I want to thank you all for coming out. Most importantly, I want to thank you for being a part of this organization, for talking about this organization, because I knew about this organization before I was even asked to come speak here, because those people that are afraid of you know about this organization, and they know why it was formed, and they know what you all are talking about. So I want to thank you all for being involved. As far as law enforcement, we are doing a fantastic job keeping you safe. We know you support us. We know the majority supports us. We always need a pat on the back. Not that we do it for a pat on the back, but if you see a deputy, if you see a cop, say thanks, wave, do something, wave with your whole hand, not your middle finger. Everything will be good. Riverside County Law Enforcement, I've said this, I'm going to end on this, I've said this for a long, long, long time. We are on an island in the state of California. We aren't necessarily like the rest of California. I meet bi-monthly with every sheriff in the state, 58 of us. And the problems that they have, like, holy moly, I don't even know what to tell you, because I don't have that problem. I have good people in my county. I have normal, level-headed people in my county. And even for the most part, even though there are some that need to be voted out, we do have a relatively good local government system. There are definitely some that need to be voted out because they've been in, number one, too long, and that whole thing about character, some of them lack it. And that should be the number one reason why you're voting for someone. Make sure you investigate to find out their character, not just what they tell you they believe or what they're going to do. So thank you all for caring about all of this enough to come out here. Certainly appreciate your support for me.
See, he had those terrible meetings, and now he comes out here and gets a standing ovation.
Now I can go to sleep tonight.
Now you're going to sleep tonight. Now I'm sure with that he'll be back. So we'd love to have him back. A couple of things to kind of wrap up that we're working on. We're working on talking to the EMD group that came and spoke to us, that took over the former Western Municipal. They have up the park area or garden area at the end. We're talking to them about taking that over and putting a gate out to the street so that we can use that as our community rendezvous area and start taking that over. Brian was just named to the board of the Riverside Neighborhood Partnership. Both Brian and I were named to the Police Chief's Advisory Committee. So we're going to be participating in that. We both took the Citizens Academy, and we're pushing the chief to start reinstituting reserve officers so that we can have reserve officers backed up and start doing training for that. We're working on the Council of Organizations to find all the other organizations we can find of any kind within the city so that we can rally, like the sheriff said, and be able to do things collectively, meet like once a quarter in order to get things going and be able to address things. We're having our Kmart subcommittee meeting on the 20th in a week. The EIR will be out on the 23rd, so we'll be addressing that. We met with the water district, and we're having some interesting talks with them about how much they're charged by the city to sell the city water that we own to them, and anyway, we're working on trying to come up with something on that. We'll keep you posted. Brian and I are trying to we took the CERT training because we believe, like the sheriff said, there's gonna be, it's just a matter of time before we have some type of a disaster, either natural or man-made. So we want to become CERT instructors, but we're having a little struggle getting someone to sign off so we can take the FEMA training to become CERT instructors. So we're working on that. Our March meeting, we're going to be talking about our bylaws and mission statement, our nonprofit status and the implications of that. We're talking about adjusting our name and making it the Mission Grove Neighborhood Alliance so that we can include the neighboring groups that are connected with us and kind of broaden our scope a little more since we're getting a lot of people from surrounding neighborhoods and including them in the group. We're going to talk about our tentative schedule for the rest of the year, and we're going to be talking about, with the sheriff, we're going to have a representative in here to teach us how the Legiscan system works so we can send messages up to Sacramento and be able to hammer those state senators and assembly people on issues and do it right from our computer. And with that system, they have to pay attention to what comes through. If you just send them an email, they can just delete it and not record it. But the Legiscan system, they have to. So with that, we thank you all for coming. Hope you come next week because we're going to have those on the agenda to talk about the future of the organization. We're going to be 1 year in April. So I think we have now how many email addresses now?
500.
500 email addresses. Our goal originally, if we thought we'd get 300, we'd be doing well. We're at 500 already. So if you know anybody that needs to be on the email list, get them to log into the website and sign up so they can get the messages. We'll have more stuff coming out as we go. Okay? So have a good evening and drive safe home.